Hello everyone, my name is Leslie Nolasco. I am a student at NAU Yuma, and this is a training workshop for my BBA 338 Training and Development class. My presentation is based primarily on ethics. I know that ethics is a very broad category, but I will be discussing all of the ethical dilemmas that happen in the workplace. When it comes to business, ethics in the workplace consists of categories mainly such as, small as they may seem, they're not that small. They're actually a big deal, and there are many legalities towards them. When it comes to human resource management, HR managers need to be aware of all of the ethical dilemmas that their employees may go through, that they themselves can go through, or even higher leaders can go through. When it comes to business, there are ethical dilemmas such as stealing, such as sexual harassment, such as environmental destruction, gender discrimination. There are many glass ceilings in the workplace when it comes to women and minorities. Anything can be an ethical dilemma. Any situation can turn ethical, and any ethical situation can also turn legal. So it's very important to take a note of that. Ethics is something that is very controversial, mostly because everybody has their own opinion on right and wrong. Not only on right and wrong, but many people have different values. Those values are derived from early childhood, they're derived from parents, they're derived from learning experiences, religion, influences. Anything like that can really influence a person on whether they think if something is morally right or wrong. When it comes to the workplace, there could be an issue with that, mainly because people's perception is different than someone else's. Not only that, but when it comes to legalities and cases, ethics can really have a gray area, and that's something that HR managers really need to learn how to figure out and adapt to. So before getting started, I just want to do a quick disclaimer. Well, not really a disclaimer, but just a little notice to everyone that I will be referencing my notes that I have here just to make sure that I cover every subject for every slide. Just so you know that if I look down, that's the reason. But also, I am going to be starting the PowerPoint already, and I will be doing a voiceover some of the slides. But just so that everyone's aware, I am familiar with doing this before, but I'm not as skilled as I would like to be, so if you could just bear with me and just be attentive, because I will be having a few assessments on here, just because as adults we do often forget things, and sometimes we don't really pay attention to everything. I just want to make this a fun environment. I have included pictures and memes as well, just to make it a little bit more fun, a little bit brighter for everyone, so we can all enjoy. I am going to be referencing a lot of assumed knowledge, I guess you could say, and then I also want to have everyone be on the same page and kind of discuss their opinions and their thoughts, so I will be looking for that, and I'll discuss it as soon as we get to each of the slides, but just a little heads up before getting started. So here we go on the PowerPoint. Alright everyone, so here's the beginning of my PowerPoint. It is called Ethics in the Workplace, BBA 338 Training and Development, and it is by me, Leslie Nolasco. So let's go ahead and move on to our introduction. Alright, so I've added a picture of myself so you can see me, the trainer, Leslie Nolasco, right here in our introduction, and I just wanted to start off by saying thank you so much for tuning in, and we're going to have a really fun time. So first things first, here is the flyer that I have created for today's web training. It states a cooperative web training for adults and managers. This is on ethics. And just a description, I'm just going to go ahead and read it for those of you who want to skim through it. So the bottom part on here states an exclusive webinar on ethics in the workplace. This training is for adults who learn in teams and through visuals. Leslie Nolasco presents this training. to discuss common ethical dilemmas and how to resolve them. She creates visuals, assessments, and classroom participation through fun adult learning. Topics include social responsibility, stealing, and more. Tune in. Now that we've looked at the flyer, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the handouts for today's training workshop. We have the flyer already displayed. Just go ahead and grab a notebook and a pencil for any notes that you may want to take per slide. Just because a lot of the information isn't on the slide itself, it'll be read through and narrated. So if any personal notes you would like to take, I would highly recommend that. And assessment, we are going to have a pre-test as well as a post-test. This is just kind of a fun exercise just to kind of see what you know before the trading workshop and what you will learn for after. And towards the end, I have also included a survey. The survey is a very short and easy survey, but it'll mostly benefit myself and anyone else who is interested in maybe participating so they can see whether or not that this training workshop would be good for them. Okay, so moving on, here's the pretest that I mentioned earlier. It's very short, it only has 3 questions. The first one we have here is to define ethics. This one is pretty obvious. Some people have their own definition of ethics and their own perception, as I stated in the introduction of the video. But I just want everyone to kind of take their notepad and pencil and kind of write down what they believe ethics is. The next question is, what is social responsibility? I will mention that for a post-test, we will be asking the difference between social responsibility and sustainability. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. And the third and last question is being unethical illegal? This one can be controversial, but we're speaking more on in the business workplace type of aspect. So just consider if you were being unethical at your workplace, if it would be considered illegal or not. There are many situations that can apply to this, but we just kind of want the overall decision. So for the next slide, we have here an icebreaker. This is kind of to get us all comfortable, to get things going for the presentation. It's quite literal, which to me it's very funny. I like dry humor, but anyways, let's just go ahead and read this. So it says here, turn to the penguin next to you and tell them what you know about global warming. I find this hilarious. I think it's very ironic because they are penguins literally breaking the ice. I think it's quite funny, really. So basically, just ask around you. We're going to be asking a lot of questions for most of the dilemmas. We're going to be asking, is it ethical? Is it justified? Is it worth it? I'd just like to start off with a quick question. So go ahead and ask yourself this. Is it okay to take some pens home from work? Do you often spend your work hours trying to do personal tasks instead of work duties? Have you ever taken credit for someone else's work or ideas? Do you ever download pirated music or pirated movies? So we're just going to take a few minutes to discuss amongst our colleagues about what we think is okay to do or what would be considered as unethical. The reason I ask these questions is because they're actually very simple scenarios that are actually common seen outside of the workplace. For example, with pirated music, people might not think it's a big deal, but really, if you ask yourself if it is ethical or not, it's really unethical, mainly because whoever worked hard to create that music isn't receiving the credit. Not only is the artist not receiving credit, but they're not receiving the money for the hard work that they put in for that music. And we think that, hey, we're getting a good deal, hey, it's free, it's not hurting anyone, when in reality it is hurting them. Some people may justify it by saying, hey, that artist makes millions of dollars, it's not fair. Well, it's still unethical. You are still technically stealing and it is unlawful. So here we have the next slide of mostly containing about ethics. It is called What Are Ethics and How Do We Practice Ethics? I included a little angel versus devil picture right here just because when we think about what is morally right and wrong, I typically think of, the little angel on my shoulder, the little devil on my shoulder telling me what to do. I know that's just my little way of thinking about it, but it is fun to think about and kind of compare it to that. So I have right here the definition of ethics. It says that it is rules of behavior based on ideas about what is morally good and bad. So if you want to talk about kind of with your colleagues about what you think is right and wrong, what you think is ethical, go ahead and do that. But to answer one of the pre-test questions, I have it right here that being unethical is not necessarily illegal, but it can be in the workplace. Stealing, sexual harassment, and accepting bribes are just a few examples. When it comes to the workplace, ethical dilemmas are often encountered. However, ethical dilemmas in a business workplace are often solved mainly through legalities versus just solely on personal decisions. Ethics are rules and conducts that are expected in the workplace. It's a code of morality. Ethics can be covered in accounting, marketing, and every other category of business, really. If human resource managers do not teach ethics, they give into the idea that morals and values are just not important. Without ethical guidelines, it can be conceived that a business does not really care to have ethics and that they may practice their business unfairly. This can look bad to stakeholders, shareholders, any type of consumer. We don't want to show that we are unethical and that we would steal from you and that we have no values. That is not the goal here. So right now you may be thinking, so what is the goal? The goal is to have a workplace and conduct a business in a manner that you can be proud of, that consumers are proud of even doing business with you. And the reason that we want to do this is not just for profitability, but for just the moral good of humanity. Moving forward, we have our objectives of the training workshop. Here you can read that you will be learning mainly 4 different things in this training workshop. The first is the most obvious definition of ethics. It's important to know not only in business but in daily life. The second here we have is recognizing ethical dilemmas. We want to recognize ethical dilemmas just so we know how to act towards them, so that we act in a professional manner, in a well-behaved manner, and that we can avoid any type of legal case and any type of harm to anyone. The third here is for social responsibility. We as humans, as workers, as managers, we want to be responsible for the earth that we live in, and we want to sustain the earth that we live in. I will go ahead and talk about the difference in a later slide. Lastly, we will be learning about managing with ethics. You may be wondering at this point what managing with ethics really consists of. Well, we will go ahead and talk about it in the next slide, but it is something that human resource managers need to know and need to be able to portray and need to be able to describe to their employees and be able to handle this on a daily basis. After the objectives, we just have here training outline. This is just for your reference, really. It's just going to outline the main topics that we're discussing. And I just want to take a moment to have you discuss with your team about real life examples that you may have gone through in previous jobs, maybe even just in real life, about any ethical dilemmas that you may have encountered and how you solve them. I would like to focus on workplace ethical dilemmas, so if you have that, just be ready to discuss. Here we're talking about managerial ethics. This is based upon behavior with employees. Managers in the workplace really decide their ethical dilemmas based upon what their employees may think of them and how they react to that. There are many different